Hello, everyone, and welcome to C-SHIP fifth free webinar series edition. Thank you for joining us today to explore the topic of gendered perspectives, creative juggling between business and family life balance. The webinar is organized by C-SHIP and powered by the Creative Pact for Skills. Before we start, I would like to dedicate a quick moment for housekeeping. Please keep your microphone muted during the presentations, and you're welcome to use the chat box throughout the webinar. The webinar will be recorded, so please feel free to keep your camera on or off. The last 20 minutes is dedicated to a Q&A. If you wish to interact with the speakers during the Q&A slot, please raise your hand or unmute yourself. In the next 5 minutes, I'll briefly present C-SHIP and introduce our three bright speakers. So I will be sharing my screen. So C-SHIP is an action learning training and awareness raising program on cultural entrepreneurship. It's designed for professionals in the cultural and creative industries and aspirants. It is actually addressing 5 specific sectors, which are visual and performing arts, cultural heritage professionals, design, film and audiovisual production, and cultural institutions and museums. The training aims at starting an entrepreneurial journey, ensuring the financial viability of artistic projects, strengthening and developing managerial skills, and improving societal contribution and positive impacts. So for this year's edition, we already had 2 webinars focused on competitiveness versus ecosystem partnerships, CCIs as drivers of entrepreneurship, innovation, and creativity. And today we will speak about gendered perspectives, while the last webinar will focus on the role of intermediaries in bridging the gap between creatives and the business world. So our first speaker today will be Jessica Capra, who is the head of concept and project at The Artist and the Others, a foundation dedicated to empowering emerging artists by providing them with the skills, knowledge, and networks needed for sustainable careers. Driven by her passion for community care and contemporary art, Jessica focuses on mentoring artists, organizing workshops, and developing inclusive projects such as flexible residencies for artist parents. Our second speaker will be Martina Manzo, who's an adjunct professor at Pegasus Digital University, UniCamillus, and the University of Roma Tre, where she teaches respectively startup and spin-off, applied and political economic and budgeting. She has a PhD in governance and management from Roma Tre. Her PhD thesis addressed the relational capital in women-led innovative startups. She later received a research grant from the University of Torino, focusing on innovation, circular economy, and sustainable mobility. Her research interests include intellectual capital, knowledge management, open innovation, female entrepreneurship, and social sustainability. She is also a member of the CIDRE Scientific Observatory on Gender Studies, IPATSIA. Our third contributor today will be Vania Cauzillo, who is a stage director, documentarist, and researcher. She tells stories through documentary film and contemporary opera, experimenting on co-creation with communities. She co-founded the theater and community opera company L'Albero, based in Basilicata, recognized by the Ministry of Culture since 2021, and she is conducting PhD research on the topic of community opera as method to disseminate heritage and archives in Basilicata University. She's a member of the jury of Opera Education Platform of Fedora. She has been involved for years in advocacy on issues related to inclusion and gender gap in performing arts at Europe's largest opera houses. 2023, she was nominated chair of RESEO, European Network of Dance, Opera, and Music Education based in Brussels. So thank you very much for being with us today. And without further ado, I would like to give the floor to you, Jessica, to tell us a little bit about the Padlet, the artist and the others made about the free resources for artist parents and the project you are planning to do for mother artists. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ruba. I will share my screen and hopefully it's loading. Exactly. So this is Maya. Ruba already gave an introduction, and this is the artist and the others. I will quickly give you a short introduction because it's very important to understand what we do and why we created what we did. And the artist and the others, it's basically made by a team of women. Two of them are mothers. Me and Ronya are mothers, and Zoe it's helping us in communication. It's also part of the team. The Artists and the Others is a non-profit foundation created in 2013 that is based in Maastricht and Munich, and through local and regional and international projects, we support artists and cultural professionals by helping them develop a sustainable career in the cultural fields, but also targeting educational gaps and unfair dynamics, highlighting in expert report, and I will show you some, actively talking to artists and professionals to learn about their experience, difficulties, obstacles they face in different countries. And throughout our project, we provide a solid framework of knowledge, skills, and connections necessary to address these gaps and empower artists. So in short, like we initiate projects that present a solution from current needs. We provide workshop and coaching sessions. We enable and foster connection across border. And we advocate and promote fair and sustainable practice. And we research and initiate projects to create a more inclusive art world for parent artists. Just for location-wise, Maastricht is also like at the Art of Euregio. So that's also a very interesting place because we can gain some kind of knowledge from different countries all together. And this is like a small outline of project we did with the Creative Abio region meant to connect this kind of area. But there are also free tools for artists to discover this area. If you're looking to extend your own career, you can go through our Instagram account, and on the reels, you can see this Meteor Regio where we talk with all the different initiative, institution, organization that exist in this area. So in order to become aware of what are the opportunities, because this is also one of the challenge that they have also for parent artists, because you don't really have the time to go to all the different opening, etc. Or if you are brought to the Netherlands or in this area not so long ago, then you can really save your time and throughout this type of project discover the institution and initiative that might be important for your the development of from your own practice. We also have a coaching that is like one-on-one coaching that is like let's meet. So artists can book a 20 minutes free session on our website where they can get advice on career most of the time, but most of the time are related to project we are doing. We provide skills, of course. We develop different type of workshop for artists that the academies do not provide to them. But also like at the moment we have an open call for summer training for artists in Munich. So it's really like we just launched it this week. So it will be from the 15th till the 11th. From the 15th till the 18th of July, and people can apply until the 31st of May in case it's interested, because it's also like connecting all different artists from different background. And like actually last year we did one specifically that it was called Care to Care, that it was specifically targeted to parent artists, but also in this case they are also welcome because we are trying to do the program during the daycare time. Another thing that we do is like providing connection, like we organize different type of speed dates where we facilitate the exchange of knowledge, but also the extension of the network between artists and creative stakeholders. And when we do different projects, we also are having a cooperation in residency in the Villa Valdaberta, and we take care that the artists develop a lot of connection, meaningful connection that will be fruitful in the future. So the pillar of our foundation are the knowledge, skills, and connection. And those are really like what we see that are true values to develop a sustainable career in the art. Next to, of course, the fair practice, because we cannot talk about entrepreneurship without fair practice on the side. But of course, the topic was sustainable career in the arts and motherhood, how to develop your career while having care responsibilities. So those are kind of like, we are researching these themes now, this theme for now 2 years, and those are quite of the book, like let's say the milestone books that we found that are really interesting, because of course the first, how to not exclude artist mother and other parents, is like the one that, let's say, Tijuda is the book that had Tijuda wrote that started the movement. And then Saskia Beiler took this discourse into the caring infrastructure. So like, what do we need to change in order to facilitate all this change that is needed in order to create a more inclusive artwork for parent artists? And this is also Matrescence by Lucy Jones. So there are many of those books that are really important to read. So the question is like, do artists need to choose between art and motherhood? This is like a research that okay, it's very scary, but it has a positive outcome. So it's like, don't get scared of the numbers. Those are the numbers from the Netherlands, from the Bureau of Economic and Political Analysis in 2021. And they will show that, of course, mothers' earnings are 46% lower compared to the pre-birth earning trajectory, whereas father earnings are unaffected by the childbirth. And during the first year after birth, father earned slightly less than with a child than compared to they had not had one. But this reduction fades away 7 years after the birth. Mothers, on the other hand, experience a strong penalty immediately after the birth, like 30% less earning than in absence of the child after 2 years, which amplifies over the year, and it reaches like 46% after 7 years. So as you can see already, like you can see a total disparity between a mother and a father. Of course, if you have more children, this impacts even more your penalty. And the gender pay gap in 2022 was 14.2, which is worse than the UA average. And on the 1st of January of this year on Instagram, the United Nations posted this, then I'm going to read it, like, it's 2025 and no country has yet achieved gender equality at the current rate of progress. It could take another 300 years for women and girls to have the same right as men. So not very encouraging. Sorry to start the presentations, but I think it's a highlight the urgency that we need to talk about this topic and to act also quite fast in order to do so, to change this. And this is like a small research that Saskia Beiler did, and I copy paste from her Instagram on looking at the 10 most successful living artists and their kids and how many. So if you look like out of the 10 most successful living artists, their parents, to be precise, they are fathers. The 2 women artists who are among the top 10 are both childless. But if you look in details, like if you look at the 10 most successful male artists, in total they have 32 kids, so 3.2 kids on average, and only one, that is Richard Serra, who doesn't have any kids. But the situation is totally different if we look at the 10 most successful female artists, that they have 5 kids in total, so an average of 0.5. So none of them has more than one child, and this, again, we see this type of reflection that is not really comparable if you are a father or a mother. So the takeaway of this short research, to mention Saskia, is like fatherhood is very common among successful artists. Motherhood is much rarer among successful artists. And if women artists do have kids, it's only one. And Jeff Koons, of course, with 8 kids, was able to break the world record of selling the most expensive artwork by a living artist. So she says, like, in order to address gender equity in the art, it's not enough to only look at the gender in isolation. We also need to consider the artist's caring responsibility. And we must hold art institutions accountable for building support structure that the artists or our parents, mother in particular, can thrive in the art. So what she's advocating, and her work is very much inspiring because she advocates for a structural change that needs to happen. And we cannot, be blind about it at the moment. And this is an extra to still contextualize what I'm going to say later on, is that from Hetty Judas, so the book I showed you before, you saw before, How to Do Not Exclude Artist, Mother, and Our Parents, that says, like, wouldn't be glorious if all of this were the stuff of a distant past, if artists didn't feel the pressure to choose between motherhood and a successful career, if the artwork was no longer hung up on the career-free youth, if a woman in her late 40s wasn't seen as mommy or unserious, exhibiting again after taking a break to raise a child, if family was not considered a trap for women because childcare was equally shared between partners, and if mother in the public eye were no longer judged for all they did and didn't do. Alas, yes, this is part of the case, and this was already like 3 years ago, and nothing changed, drastically. So one of the highlights we also had to talk by talking to artists is that, and reading the books, of course, and experiencing ourselves, is that motherhood could be a very lonely period. There is a very little residency when we come for parents artists, and the one that they have it's very highly competitive. And not all of them, they offer you daycare. So you go there with your child, but you still having care duty to accomplish next to your work. Most of them are not, also like most of the openings are not family friendly or have in a difficult time frame for family, which is dinner or bedtime routine, which makes the mothers not go to those opening and disappearing for the network of the art for years or months, And there was a lacking of a resource of place for tools, knowledge, where artists could maybe discover networks. They could discover opportunities that they might have, etc. And I think another thing that comes up is really like that in the art is, my colleague will talk about the startup later on. But in the art, like one of the things that I found it very peculiar is that this stress of the instability, because the art is not really like we call it creative industry, but if you really take the art, like the visual sector, it's not really an industry, as a famous book highlights, because it has different dynamics. And one of them is comparing, like it's comparable to motherhood because it's a labor of love. Art is also a labor of love. So people pretend that you work for free. Still in 2025, I can hear that, people are not paid or like they offer you a platform, even like attending this webinar or providing this webinar. It took me like 2 hours to work, but like, okay, I chose to do it for free. But this comes from a form of privilege, and we still need to be aware of this because that should not be a common practice, because it creates and it goes to implement the fifth point that is like, how do you deal with instability? Because yes, it's a labor of love, but it's a labor, exactly as motherhood. And just today to say that in Denmark, they also like ask you if you want to stay at home with your child, you can also be paid to be at home with your child for any number of months, but the government encourage you to be back at work, even though, for instance, your body is not ready for it. But that's also a bigger discourse. But to go back to what the arts and the artists trying to do it, one of the things we created, because we were working on on a symposium is to create this Padlet that is called Parenting in the Arts, Meaningful Tools for Parent Artists, where you can actually go through it. This is an image, so I have opened another, let me see. I have opened another button so I can show you properly. This is like our Padlet where you can find different tools from, event or realize tools. There is like a theater tools that a company in Germany realized in order to really like deal with actors who have children. Now, can you facilitate the overall performance for them? There is the manifesto, of course, for Menti Judah, but there are also like a list of residency supporting funding network where like especially the art and care is very active. Also the one from Saskia Beiler, the Kunst und Kind, especially in the Caring Cultural Lab from Saskia Beiler and the Kunst and Cultural Kind here. But you find also podcasts, social groups, books. This is a nice exhibition that is just happening. It's like the catalog of the exhibition that is happening at the Central Museum, like Good Mom, Bad Mom, etc. So here it's for free. It's constantly revised, and we add tools on it in order to become meaningful. There is also like the Mondrian Funds in the Netherlands just released here a voucher for Dutch artists with kids. So in case you would like to travel with your kids, you can apply for extra money in order to pay for a babysitter, etc. So this is like one of the things we did while researching on the symposium that we are doing. And in particular, we were looking at residency and really trying to see, okay, why can we is it possible to create a residency for artist parents? Because residency is one of the activities or like one of the must things you should do, but it really supports your career, because when you go on a residency, you can embed the three pillars of the artist and the others, the knowledge, skills, and network, all in one place. And when we see like parent artists, we see, or mainly mother artists, you see that they have a gap in the career and they don't go to residency anymore, exactly because it becomes difficult. So we started to think, okay, how can we do this? How can we provide a residency that help us reduce the pollution in the environment, because traveling in the arts is one of the first things that pollutes the most, of course, taking flights, etc. Where the parents is keen and is facilitates, because not all the kids can be easily adapted to the place, and they can still be paid and they can still be mentoring, because there is one wonderful tools that is residency motherhood, that you can declare yourself in residency. But you don't get the mentoring and you don't get a fee and you don't get a public presentation. So we thought, okay, then we are going to do this. And before talking about this is also something that we kept in mind, because this is a work by Madda Bukta. She was at the at the residency of the Danish art in Rome. And she said, like, yeah, they offered me to come with they provided or told me I could come with the kids, but then there was no cares that was provided. So she made an artwork that says, I saw nothing, because, I still had to take care of my daughter while working, and I couldn't really do the network, for instance, that is very important once, especially you are on a residency. So we came up with this open call on an online art residency for parent artists. It was particularly targeted at Dutch nationals or Dutch or artists based in the Netherlands. And it was supported by the Mondrian Funds. That was amazing to see this as a potential pilot project for the open call. So it's an open call of 3 months. It's a residency of 3 months, where within this period of time, artists have a community, in the sense that we will meet every week to talk about how the development of the project is going. They will receive a mentoring. They receive a 700 euros fee. And they will have a public presentation at Oda Park in December. And the total residency is 3 months, and we have 2 slots, like the fall and the spring session. And we received like more than 72 applications. And just to, again, share the numbers, there were like 70 women and 2 men. So that's also like keeps replicating in the numbers that we have. And to conclude, like, I think also like for us as a foundation, it's really important to bring like this structural change. So we are organizing a Parenting in the Arts symposium on the Kunstverein, at the Kunstverein on the 3rd of July in 2025. With, of course, Hetty Judah, Saskia Baile, and Mirte Berensen, among other inspiring professionals. But the idea is to also like, we invited also the organization from Munich, so the policymaker, etc., because the change doesn't happen to, only on one side. Otherwise, it's an echo chamber. We will need those people to come, and we are working together, of course, also with the Kulturreferat to work together in kind of creating a more inclusive space for artist parents. And at the same time, we are working on the sound of motherhood, me and Jane, and loud numbers. And the idea came about the fact that, for me, especially like motherhood, it feels like climate change, if you're not impacted by it, you see as something that is so far away and say, yeah, they are flooding, in Spain. There are iceberg melting somewhere, water that, in Emilia Romagna, but they are not really like, if they don't come to you, they don't change. And I felt that motherhood can only be understood when you experience it, because it's a beautiful thing, but at the same, it's a challenge that you are faced with, because the system is not really welcoming. But, there are changes, and we can be the drive of this change. So in order to keep the discourse going, after the symposium, we have an exhibition that is called The Short Blanket, that it's a metaphor from Brazil. When you put the blanket on one side, it goes way to the other side. So that's a little bit the feeling that we want to give to explore the layer of motherhood. And it will be in the mid of September at Florida in Munich. So thank you very much. So I hope to give you an idea of what our work is about. And I will pass the floor to Martina, I think.
Thank you very much, Jessica, for this inspiring presentation and for taking us through all the support that Artist and the Others is providing for parent artists. It was great to see how many free tools and other services you're providing in terms of coaching, workshops, trainings, connections, networking, and residencies. I think the fact that you already anticipated some of the challenges and the urgency to tackle the topic of these challenges links very well with your work, Martina, and what's the situation of women entrepreneurs in the cultural and creative industries. So we actually are looking forward to hearing about your research.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm sharing the screen. Can you see? Okay, perfect. So good afternoon, and thank you, Ruba, for the opportunity to join today's very stimulating seminars. And thank you also to the organizing committee for the efficiency in managing this and the previous also session of this seminar. And I will thank you also for your contribute to this research, because I will present today the highlights of a research that we conducted together. And also thank you to the Professor Elena Borin that I see is connected. So today I will present indeed the results of our research on the state of the art of the literature on female entrepreneurship in cultural and creative industries. So first of all, I think it's important to understand what we meant by this term, so cultural and creative industries. Over the time, there are, let's say, various conceptual framework have been developed on this topic. For our research in particular, we used a kind of integrated, we can define it as an integrated framework based on one of the main frameworks used in the literature by David Crosby. It's this one that we see on the left. That is a circular framework. It has, we can say, on the middle, the core creative activity, the core creative arts. Then the so-called other core creative industries, wider cultural industry, and related industries. However, in order to involve also the more recent creative and cultural industry, we integrated it with the framework of United Nations. So here on the right, we have basically the final framework we consider with all the industries and the sectors, the categories of cultural and creative industries that we considered. So why did we consider that could be interesting to analyze this topic, so to investigate the situation of female entrepreneurship in cultural and creative industries? Because although these industries are known and are recognized for their role in the economic development, and in particular in sustainable economic development, women still have a limited access. So there is still a gender gap recognized in statistical reports, but also in literature. They have in particular limited access to positions of leadership. So we can say the strategic decision-making positions. And it's possible to recognize, some study recognize a kind of so-called vertical segregation in gender. So a gender gap linked to this vertical segregation. In particular, for instance, these studies that we inserted in our research it's interested because it tried to explain the main reason for this segregation. So it says that first of all, women often face structural exclusion from networks of power and influence that are relevant, especially in this type of career. Second, there are some gendered expectations around the caregiving and the work-life balance, which is extremely, again, consistent with what Jessica has said before. And then the third is there is a bias in the distribution and the evaluation of the opportunities that constrains women's access to decision-making roles. Anyway, it's really difficult to try to track a gender gap in these industries for some reason. First of all, because as we said, the cultural and creative industries is actually a macro sector, so it involves lots of different context, and also because of the prevalence of freelancers or self-employment arrangements. So it's let's say the organization of entrepreneurs in this field, if we can call like them like this, it's hard to track. So given this introduction, our main goal was to try to map and to track the studies on this topic, considering their geographical distribution and also the main topic that emerged from this study, also in order to track interesting further research. So to do that, we used a systematic literature review. I will be quick on the methodology, but of course, if there are some curiosity, we can deepen them, just because I want to give more space to the results. Anyway, we tracked a systematic literature review, and our final sample involved studies that didn't have any temporal boundaries. So they were published from 2002 to 2025, and the final sample involved 40 40 documents. We carried out 4 different analyses, focusing with different strengths, using Scopus and Web of Science, focusing on the cultural sector, creative sector, cultural and creative industries, and then in general the cultural and creative ecosystems. We applied specific exclusion and inclusion criteria to have a homogeneous sample, and we arrived in this way, as you can see, to the final sample of 40 documents. So here we start with the analysis of the findings. We provided, first of all, a descriptive analysis. So this first chart on the left illustrates the growing of academic interest on this topic, so on female entrepreneurship within cultural and creative industries, especially from 2019. Of course, this is the period. Let's say this period aligns with the broader global shift toward gender-sensitive policies and research. For sure, we can consider also the 2017 was the year of the Me Too. So also in the social context, there were a bigger attention in the gender equality. Also, for instance, 2019 was the year of the pandemic spread. That was a kind of spotlight revealing and amplifying all the inequalities and also the need for gender equality. And anyway, these are, of course, just hypotheses. On the second graph, we have, so on the right, we have the analysis of the methodology of this research. We found that they are mainly qualitative analysis. Indeed, as we will see in some minute, they are mainly case study, empirical analysis with direct interviews of specific creative enterprises. Here we face the geographical analysis. So we have two different graphs because we wanted to carry out a double analysis, both considering the affiliation of the author. So in this, let's say this upper graph, we have the distribution by affiliation. And on this lower graph, we have the distribution by, let's say, observed geographical area. So the geographical area that were considered, let's say, whose case studies and enterprises were considered. We see that there is more or less consistent distribution. So Europe emerges as the main geographical area. About this topic, followed by North and Central America, and then more or less with similar percentages, but the other countries and the other area. Of course, it's worth noting that one of our inclusion criteria was the language, so was the English language. So for sure that this could have impacted on the selection of the sample, so also on the results about the distribution of the analysis. So going on, we also analyzed, we classified the result according to the previous framework that we saw in the first slide. And this is the percentage distribution across the different categories. So the most of research were actually focused on a generic cultural and creative industries, or were cross-sector. Then we are talking about the 40% of the studies. Then we have let's say the second most the second widest category concern the other cultural and creative core cultural industries with 22.5%. Then we have wider cultural industries, so studies focus on these industries with 15%, core creative arts with 12.5%, and finally the other related industries. So coming to the content analysis, so the main topic that have emerged by this research, we identified some, let's say, some link, and we identified three different topics, three macro category of topics. So first of all, studies concerning gender skill and attributes, capacity building, and business support. Then studies facing the innovative women entrepreneurial practices and performances. And finally, studies and research concerning and focused on the underrepresentation of female entrepreneurship and of enterprises, and also the gender pay gap. That was a topic really strictly linked. So as for the first category, what emerged by these studies is that that the education and training are crucial for equipping female entrepreneurs with the skills that are needed, especially in dynamic market. Yet education is not enough alone. Indeed, there is an extremely important role that is carried out by networks. So both professional networks and also informal networks, so family, friends, and other relationship based on trust, so the so-called relational capital of the entrepreneurs. Meanwhile, institutional support often overlooks the diversity for the women, different experiences, so they are limited in their effectiveness because they are pretty standard and not enough linked to the real need of enterprises. For instance, here there are some results of this first category that I think are interesting. For instance, this first study, Rodriguez et al. 2024, focused on massive open online courses in Brazil, and it highlights the power of accessible and free education and courses. And in particular, it emphasizes the importance of accessible and flexible learning, and the relevance in this term of networks, of, let's say, of an informal education. Then also the other research highlight the relevance of ecosystem in general, so of again of the relational capital, and in particular this research on Irish craft is interesting about the topic of two standard let's say help, institutional support, because this research identified three different categories of artists, of crafter in Ireland, according to the let's say to the level of profit orientation, we can say. So they recognize the hobbyists, so women that simply were focused on their passion, and then on the other hand, women that really made their craft work a profession. And they say how the support was too standard and at the end ineffective for all of these categories. So going on, I will just summarize the result without focusing on each research. And then, of course, also in this case, if there are any curiosity, we can deepen them. As for the second category about innovation, what emerged is that in particular in performing art, it's how female artists not only find innovative solution to provide a new artist output, but also a new solution to frame them. For instance, an interesting research is about all the let's say the topic, the trend of a professional mermaid. And then the third category is about underrepresentation and gender pay gap. Here there were mainly studies from the film sector, so movie industries, and they recognize, they state how there is a high underrepresentation, especially in leadership position, not only considering the production of the movie, but also all the other let's say area that are linked to the distribution, the promotion, etc. Even if it's more, let's say, more relevant, this gap in the mainstream cinema. So there is a big, let's say, a smaller gap in the independent cinema. So to conclude, yeah, this research let us identify some trend that must be considered, so that first of all, women, of course, remain underrepresented in the strategic role in cultural and creative industries, that there is a gender pay gap that is connected and is well documented in creative industries. For instance, our research focused mainly on visual art and film. Then the professional networks are shown to be critical enablers of entrepreneurial success for women, offering access also to knowledge, to mentorship, and to funding. And then, of course, that institutional support need to be more specific, need to be redesigned, let's say. So I closed, and if you have any question, of course, they're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martina, for exploring with us the results of this literature review, and thank you for highlighting these three very relevant research areas which have to do with capacity building and issues related to competences, innovative practices, but also how underrepresented and gender pay gap for women entrepreneurs in CCIs is perceived. You have mentioned several times performing arts, which connects to your work, Vania. So we would like to learn more from you as a cultural entrepreneur. What are the main challenges that you are facing, and what kind of projects you are working on? So the floor is yours.
Okay, I just share my presentation, and so thank you for the invitation, and also to Martina and Jessica. I really enjoy their presentation, and also because I really thought about what I want to share. And of course, I am really the target because I am an artist mother. So I'm happy to have a very different presentation of mine on my personal point of view, reflection, but also my journey really impacts a lot of other women also, and also my company and my entrepreneurial work. So I'm happy to share with you. I start with a super beautiful and famous piece of art. It's called Maman, and it's really I loved before, but when I became mother, I really understand what the meaningful of this beautiful piece of art. Maybe someone will not see this. So it's a Maman from Louise Bourgeois. I think my French is horrible, but it's kind of. And so I just start from a reflection, a very funny reflection that I hope people that will listen this will also have a reflection. Me and my husband, when we had two child, I have two daughters. My husband and a lot of my male friends, they just changed their work description, adding that they are proudly father of two beautiful ladies, because of course it's super cool to have in the work description be fathers, of course, of two beautiful ladies. And for me, I never ever thought about to change my work description and put this is a mother. I think this is very different approach, and because I was scary from the idea to become an artist and mother, to become a mother while I am an artist. And this is totally different, as we already very well understood from Jessica and Martina presentation. But I think it's a good exercise to understand why I was scary and why it was so cool for my husband, that my poor and beautiful husband, but just to have these very different immediately impact on work description. So how our story is told, no, from the website or Twitter, ex-Twitter, and so on. So what I really learned through my experience, and it was a very long process, was starting to say sorry, from say sorry to be in this messy, or with the baby in the call, or I can't be at that time. So a lot of sorry. And what I've learned to say is that if you want me, she will be there too, because at one point I realized that the distance between me and my daughter stressed me so much that I think was the only option. And surprisingly, I receiving a lot of yes and a lot of support. This is also a message of a positive measure, to say that if we ask, sometimes, mostly in my experience, they say yes, and the space around change for welcoming me. In my impact, but of course, I think are very also on my personal life impact, I think is a sharing with other women artists. Of course, I had an impact on my life, like in a personal life, even in our work. Life and work are really connected, and I can really separate myself from my work. But thanks to the becoming mother, I realize how was needed to separate sometimes. Of course, the work on the body, that people that working in performing arts is really a topic. Is not something all the support that now we have about the embrace, the changing and embrace, but for a performing arts artist is an issue, and it's an issue in terms of availability of their bodies to become again able to perform. Of course, I am a director, so I'm not experienced myself, but I deal with a lot of artists on this topic. Of course, on my career, I was so scary about my career, but if I can see my career really improve a lot during these 3 years with 2 daughters, had an impact on my activism. I think it's very important, because when an artist became mother, starts immediately to understand in which battle you want to stand up for. And on my activism, I work a lot with a project that's called Prime Minister, for young women, that empower young women to become prime minister. We just had the first one in Italy. So 3 years ago was a kind of impossible to have an idea of a women prime minister. And of course, the activist time is no paid work. Of course, had a big impact on it. And so this really make me was one of biggest impact and a negative impact, because I really didn't have time to do, but I forced myself to stay, and be visible. And this I learned a lot in terms of be visible, and because I tried to go to events that were never on the time for a mother. I try to work on, for example, election time. Like we are here in election time, and there is never the participation of the women in the debate are nothing, because always are time that are only good for people with no kids, or one of the two that can participate, and of course usually are the men. And I think also the unexpected impact was to really have the possibility to read and understand better my city. I think when you became mother, you understand how you really have changed the space around you, and how many space you need, from the stroller to other. And so this also reflects on how we was a totally unexpected impact, how I improved to read better the cities. And of course has also unexpected impact on my patients, that I am totally not a patient person, and I learn a lot, and I will never ever learn without motherhood. So this is just to share my personal experience, but going through my work, I lead one theater company that is specialized on community opera company. So we work a lot with people and we co-create with them. So we really always create safe space for starting our creative process. But thanks to this, we really start to understand how our work can really have an impact on cultural welfare here in our South region. And so we understand, because I had a new need to do something with my kids that was not only go in the park, because I hate nature, I hate sport, so I really love culture, and we understand that there is nothing to do. And so south of Italy is really a place where the cultural poetry is very high, and there is no space at all for do something culturally and meaningful where kids and mothers can do. And so we start to invest on this. So starting from a personal leads, we invest as a company. And so we create some show. We won a European project about training ourselves with the best artists in the north of Europe about the creation for 0-6 years old. This is really a space for performing arts is really now I will say a trend, but is not the good. Also because it's really the kind of performing arts on a business model that is really not sustainable at all, because you need a small audience, and so you need a lot of experimentation and time and money to produce, but it's very unselling performance, because of course needs to be support from the public, but you can't make sustainable show for early child only with tickets. Would be totally impossible with the high quality, of course, no? And the high quality and the high artistic quality. This is a very important topic, but we produce a very beautiful show. It's called Onde, and we try to. And here there is my second daughter attending the performance, of course, the rehearsal, and then the show is performed on the floor. So I am also, thanks to L'Albero. L'Albero, my company, is in the Reseo European network. And during my first pregnancy and the first stop that I had to do, there was a shock for me that I really was a shock, because I worked very hard for all my life, and I just realized how hard was not working for me. And the Reseo work, so the European way to work in network, voluntary work, really saved my brain, because I had the possibility to work with no stress, with no performance, and I give a lot of my mindset, of my ideas, and a lot of with the times that I had, I invest on Reseo, and this became let me became a vice chair. We invented this new role because I was very active and I helped the chair, and then they nominate me chair. And while I was chair, I got pregnant the second time. I was so scary to not have the possibility, and so I prepare all my speech for sharing this with the steering committee. To say, okay, I have to leave because I am pregnant again. I will not able to do the chair. And in a European context, I always think about Italy and European context. They just laugh, because why? You will be totally able to do it, because we will support you, and we don't want another chair. We want you. And so in this photo, and I put, this is my big conference, the first as chair, with my 2 months years old lady. And this, I share this not because I really want to appoint that this is not a superwoman power, because it's super difficult, but I realized that I was asking for help. I find help and also support. So I say, if you want me, I come. I need to a support. So you will need to pay another people to help me. Now, as Jessica told us, and they were agree, and I did it, and for me and for our network is mainly made by women managers, because the head of educational department in Opera House are mainly women, and even they're all women. I had a lot of support from them to say, was so beautiful that you lead the conference with the baby, you know? So because visibility, bring our bodies into public space is so important. I realized I was strong my presence in this kind of context outside my country, without really all the support that you need when you have a 2 months baby. And so super proud also of me. So I was empowered through these experience. And because was no hard at all, I just won also my PhD during this time. So was another experience on top that because this is how researcher and how the at least in Italy the researcher are paid or well not paid for the maternity leave, but also here I receive I just say no to a lot of things that usually are required through a PhD, but this really not affected the quality of my research. I have to say I try to stay hard on the quality of the research, but just understand that I had some problems and deal with this. Last but not least, in 2022, I invest in a hotel. This is also a public and cultural space. So I invest in this space because this is in our city, Matera, so cultural, super beautiful heritage, but is only for tourists, rich tourists. And so we try to open this heritage that was made by people to community of local communities. And of course, it is a lot of accessibility, and this is, of course, is an event also for deaf people. But we try to work hard in terms of accessibility also for mother. And now we are investing in a new project because we have realized that we have a problem that sometimes in the hotel tourists ask for childcare, and there is not a service at all. Even because if you are in another countries with no people that you trust on, of course, is not easy. But at the same time, we understand that the cleaner personnel that work in all the hotel are all women without support, mostly are immigrants women. And so we think that this would be a mutual support model to create a space in the hotel where tourists can pay for, be helped by their kids, but also in this way we will try to make a free support for people from the local people that work or have to work in the SASI, so it can be the cleaner, but also maybe professional that need childcare. And so we try to offer and open a space in a hotel. This is more for welfare in general. Just share, because maybe not everyone knows about this program of Culture Moves Europe. I just thinking about maybe yes, maybe not, but it's the mobility program from European Union that allow artists to go around Europe and make research. And this is a nice story because I won they were like a pilot school in the previous year. I won twice, one receiving an artist that was a mother, And I also won another call from a pilot call from about was the unexpected unusual place where you can do artistic residency. And also my husband was a consultant for this project, and we really without know each other that we wrote the same things, but we suggest to when you do the recommendation that has the disabled people have the money for bring someone to help, we suggest that has also the parents. And of course we will be not only us, it will be totally a European idea, but I love that this became a practice, because when I applied for the first 2 times, it was not in the program, but the official programs now, if you are artist or cultural professional with children under 10 years old, they are eligible for a fixed family top-up of 100 euros per person to support mobility costs related to the family responsibility. I think it's super, super interesting practice. Also to we also bring this into Reseo mobility program, for example, just to copy and paste the best practice, as the same on research. I don't remember Martina maybe knows, there is a program on research that if you are there is a premiality about under 40 years old, but if you have had a child and you are a woman, your premiality would be 1 year more. So the premiality would be 41 years old, no? Something that really make a big change, because in terms of competition is I would be not the same of a man or without kids, maybe or maybe not, but for women it's really impacts their work on research. And so I think it's something very simple that make a huge difference. I just finished my presentation because there is for Italian speaker, they just 20 days ago, they just was a new book that was published by Sant'Anastro. It's called Mamme nell'arte. It's Mothers in Arts. And it's really about the topic, the challenge of maternity. So I was thinking about this webinar and just take like the highlight of this book, that of course she in Sant'Anastro's book details model of care of presentism are not explicitly proposed, rather critical reflection emerge how artist mother lives and manage their time between family and professional commitment. And the book highlight the needs to move beyond the traditional model of presentism, that is continual secular present and as a sole measure of productivity, in order to promote more flexibility and integrate ways of balancing work and care. And so the 3 main topics that I want to share are like rethinking working times and space to allow mother to better reconcile creative and family needs, going beyond the rigid separation between private and professional sphere, the arts of care, so valuing arts of care as an integral part of the artistic and cultural life, recognizing that care is not an obstacle but a resource that can enrich creative practice. And it's something that I try to demonstrate today, going beyond the rigid separation between private and professional sphere. And last but not least, the support. Of course, we know this is a super keywords, but it's interesting because she points that is promoting an organizational culture that supports the subjective responsibility and active participation of women mothers, avoid the isolation and precariousness typical of cultural works. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vania, for this very inspiring presentation. And thank you for sharing actually personal insights, but also your career pathway and how your personal life also shaped the development of your professional career. Thank you also for sharing with us the impact timeline. I think you provided a lot of food for thought for other women artist parents, and for leaving us with these three relevant key takeaways, which are rethink acts of care and support. So now that we have tackled the topic from three perspectives, Jessica introduced an organization perspective, while Martina tackled an academic perspective, and you actually provided an artist perspective into the topic. I would like to open the floor for questions, if any questions or comments to the three of you or one of the three. So if there are any questions, please feel free to either put them in the chat or unmute yourself. Yes, Elena, please.
So hello everybody, and I start by really thanking you, thanking the three speakers for their contributions, for their perspectives. Their experiences and what they were describing really resonates with me because I'm not an artist, but I'm a mother, and I struggled also with motherhood. And it is from one side reassuring, the fact that we are all experiencing the same. And on the other side, it really gives me hope, the fact that maybe some difficulties that I experienced as an Italian are not perceived as drawbacks in the broader context, in the European context. I'm referring especially to Vania, no? She was able to launch her career also at the international level without any problem related to the pregnancy, but also with increased awareness, I think, of her potential in terms of personal development and capacities. So I have a questions, especially to Vania, because it really struck me what she said, and it's in relations to spaces. Okay, so Vania, you said that actually you rediscovered your city, that the pregnancy, the fact that you had children, brought you to experience in a different way your city, and realizing that there are no actual spaces or opportunities to engage kids in culture, or very few opportunities in engaging kids in culture. And you launched this initiative that you described, and you said, if I'm not mistaken, but that it was difficult, it was not financially sustainable. Did I understand correctly? Yeah, because that really struck me, because there is, I think, a huge potential in terms really of financing these things. I mean, there are a lot of mothers, maybe not in Italy, but everywhere in the world, there are a lot of mothers that are maybe interested in making their kids engaged in cultural activities. So how come that we cannot reach this audience, and we cannot involve them in this audience? I don't think it's such a small audience. It's a big audience, in my opinion, because there are many families that are actually potentially interested and impacted by these activities. And I was wondering if you have any idea about that, and if it was your experience, if you were referring to your city in particular, or to a general situation, and what are your thoughts about this?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, because also helped me to. I want to mention something that I forgot. First, yes, I always have this joke to say that the only things that I can do with my daughters in my city is the aperitivo in the Sunday, no, because it's true. So what you can, if there is nothing for them, no, 0-6 years old, what you can do, and so the aperitivo, she enjoys take nuts and spritz, but is really it's not a joke, it's a super sad things. But yes, so in terms of the other question, I think in general, this is not, I think, what I learned through, and we are preparing also a small report on Reseo, with Reseo on this. Pieces, commission pieces on performing arts, and if you think about that, the music is the best way how you can engage a kids with this age. In the northern country like Denmark, Norway, Finland, they already have a lot of repertoire. But also I speak from a big institution point of view, no? And of course they have the resource, the spaces, because maybe they have two singer, and you need only two singer, and you have a space, you have all the things in a big house, and it's easy to create something. But if you think about a outside artist or a small company, this kind of audience, there is few literature at all. There is only a very beautiful big project, European project, that I don't remember the name, but that can come in my mind. There are a lot of publication, but this is more in theater field. The problem that is for do a very big a beautiful show, you need the same resource as a big show at all. With a special requirement, for example, of scenography. So they have to be autoxis, they have to be the sites that are for them. So a lot of things that are made for them. But of course, selling, where you can sell this. You can sell to a private childcare, but just to really think about number, our show that we produce is called Onde. It's based on a beautiful, famous silent book by Susie Lee. It's called Waves. No, the translation is Waves. It's for one date is a cost. Sorry, I am terrible with numbers in English. Is a 107.
1,700.
You know, it is a big, huge, because you have three artists. You have, and we wrote an opera. We wrote a music from zero. So you can imagine, like we pay a composer, we pay a two professional singer, and of course, I will not say for this, but it's incredible how the kids react. And you can go with a is a 0-3. So you can go when you have a 2 months baby in a show. This is made for you and them, because in this age is so important, the relationship. So you have a totally different experience of like audience, not only them, but you as a mother or parent, you have an incredible experience. Yes. Exactly, I know them. So I think this is because in Italy we really, and I just close, bring it is a space. We don't see these kids in the cities. If you enter in a space, you never see there is something thought for them. Having this kind of show needs. I just last, but was very funny. We made after the pandemic, we tried to make a small festival of opera. We did because we found some money, and then we were not having the possibility to find other money to do the legacy. But we totally put in crisis a public museum, because they never think about to receiving 100 stroller. Okay, well, but this has changed a lot and have an impact, because now they signed the space that you can do with a stroller, of course of a wheelchair, and they understood that if we do this, there is a space for parking, no? And they add, for example, this is super beautiful things. They add change table. And now all the tourists of Matera, they leave it there. So all the tourists in Matera, they can go in a public museum and find a space for changing. It's the only space public where you can change a baby in a big city, big tourist city. Thanks of a culture, no? Thanks of a public show for kids. Yeah. I hope it's...
No, thank you so much. It's so inspiring, and I think really we need to also rethink the spaces in the cities to be more family friendly, but more inclusive in general. But thank you so much. I will probably look for you on LinkedIn. So it's
If
Thank
I
you.
may add something, because I'm
Yes.
just in Denmark and we are doing actually a research on motherhood and play. So for instance, like what is really inspiring me here is that you have free prams, so free like buggies. You can just come whatever at the swimming pool, museum or whatever. You can just have them and go around. And also there are like special tours for mummies and babies, where they usually have preview of the opening. And then Malu, who did this initiative here just met, she brings different blankets for babies to put on the floor and they can play around talking. So that's also nice. And there is tomorrow we are going to see at the Bloom Festival all program based on parents and kids activities. So there
Thank you
is
so much. No, it's great.
opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elena. Thank you, Vanya and Jessica, for answering Elena's question. I don't see any additional comment or question. Wary of time, I know our time is up. So I would like to thank you very much for your time. Thank you for attending the webinar. Many thanks to our three bright speakers. And thank you to our partner, Creative Pact for Skills. Before waving goodbye, I just would like to remind you of our upcoming webinar, which will address the role of intermediaries in bridging the gap between creatives and the business world, which will take place on Thursday, 19 June from 4 to 5:15 Central European Time. Finally, I would like to thank my colleague, Karen, who took care of the organizational matters. You will receive a follow-up email asking you to evaluate the webinar, so please do. And if you wish to rewatch this webinar, the recording will be available next week on eShek's YouTube channel and C-Ship LinkedIn page. Thank you very much and goodbye.